This is the RV Advisor Podcast with your host, Tom Alexander. Get all the latest information, trends, advice from experts, stories from the road, and more in the world of recreational vehicles. Now, here's Tom.
Welcome to the RV Advisor Podcast. I'm Tom Alexander, and joining me today, it is Joe and Kait Russo. You may know them from their site, We're the Russos. They have over 124,000 subscribers and a traveling couple who goes all over the country. Their YouTube videos are gaining great popularity, and they join us right now. Hey, Joe. Hey, Kait.
How are you doing?
Hi.
Doing great. I'm glad you could come on, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. 4 years ago, you folks decided to do one of the major life hacks of all time. You quit your jobs, you chucked most of your personal possessions, and decided to live life on the road. I got to say, that would terrify a lot of people I know. How hard was that?
It terrified us, too. It was extremely difficult, especially, I think, more so for me than it was for Kait. Mm-hmm. Kait had already checked out of what you would call the typical American dream, and she was trying to get me to go along with her, and I did. But I would say during the whole process from when we made the decision to kind of move forward with this lifestyle to actually hitting the road, took about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And during that year and a half, I think Kait had to pull me back from the edge a couple times of saying, I don't want to go through with this anymore.
Yeah.
So it was a rough process, and one of the reasons why I wrote my first book, Take Risks, was to tell people what we went through and kind of describe it so that other people who are going through the same thing can kind of read and see how we overcame those challenges.
Yeah, and you know, you sort of hinted at one of my questions, which was, was there that, did we do the right thing moment? And it sounds to me like, there were more than one.
Yes, and then even once we hit the road, we had those same moments. And one story we always like to recount was that first Friday after we hit the road. And, we just kind of had our normal routine set up from our old life. So we'd wake up in the morning, check our bank account, and nothing had been deposited.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any other source of income at the time. And we're like, oh, this is real. Our balance is going down. And, we're either going to have to quit in a year or find some way to make this life work.
And what was the moment that it started to become clear? And I'm assuming it was somewhat gradual, but what was the moment it became clear that, we're going to be able to sustain this? We're transitioning and it's happening.
You know what? It was a long process. About a month in was when we decided that we were going to try and make a go of it, because when we originally came up with the idea, it was only going to be for a year. Mm-hmm. Then we were going to go back to work. Mm-hmm. About a month in, we said, we have to find a way to make this work, figure out how to make some income. We really started working on our website, and it wasn't until, I think, 3 months after we hit the road that we even started posting videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it took us, from that point of when we started posting videos on YouTube, it took us 1 year to cover our monthly expenses. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to do it, and during that whole year, it was a struggle, but we were working hard and making a go of it.
Yeah, and I think the driving force for both of us was once we hit the road full-time, we had our 2 dogs, and we just fell in love with this lifestyle of being able to essentially travel wherever we want to go. We fell in love with that freedom, flexibility of the lifestyle, and that really, we fell in love with it so much we didn't want to go back to a more traditional lifestyle. So we worked really hard to figure out a way to keep this lifestyle going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inherently a pack rat. I tend to hang on to things. I'm probably a bit of a nostalgia buff and that kind of stuff. So my office is like a museum. I would imagine that, there were certain things that you said, we got to let this one go. Let's just hang on to A, B, and C, and let's get rid of everything else. What are some of the things that made the cut? What did you hang on to? What are a couple of prized possessions that stayed with you?
Oh, trust me, I tried to hang on to every single thing, and it was Kait who kept taking them away.
Yeah,
I had a much easier time letting go of things than Joe, and most of the stuff that he held on to were his tools. He's a very handy person, very mechanical, and when we hit the road, his goal was to be able to bring all the tools he needed to work on the RV and our tow car at the time. So the quality tools that were essential to keeping us on the road, if a mechanical failure came up, definitely made the cut.
Yeah, I will say, though, when we were packing, so we started with a Class A, and when we were packing that Class A and trying to move out of the house, I was stuffing stuff into every nook and cranny of that RV I could, to the point where I lost things. And it wasn't until we'd been on the road for a while that we finally did a spring cleaning, cleaned everything out, and that's when we realized we could go to something smaller, and eventually how we ended up in a Class B.
Yeah, that's really an incredible story and sort of evolution of what you guys are doing. We're the Russos.com has 124,000 subscribers, and we're speaking to the Russos themselves, Joe and Kait Russo. Let me ask you, are there any kinds of things that you do miss from the old lifestyle? Anything at all that's like, I do sort of miss that?
Ooh.
I will say at the beginning there were certain things, and one little habit that I kind of missed was my drive to work. Despite the fact that I wanted to get out of that lifestyle, it was always nice to have my time in the morning, drink my cup of coffee, listen to a podcast or something, and I've tried to replicate that on the road by stepping out of the RV, grabbing a chair, and just being by myself to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Local restaurants and laundromat and just places where we could go where we knew people. And what I've told others, when we first got on the road, we were very lonely because of that. But as we've been on the road now for over 4 years, our community has grown from this little bubble in Los Angeles where we started to the North America, and it's continuing to grow as we continue to travel.
It's a common theme on this podcast, and we talk about it a lot. It's the community. It's the community of RVers and travelers, people who do this for a living, or this is their lifestyle. And it seems to also be one of the tightest communities there is. I often liken it sometimes. I've done this before, but I liken it to ham radio operators. There's that brotherhood, that sisterhood between people, around all over the country, among people all over the country that like to do ham radio. Have you made a lot of friends along the way? Is that community something that is really tangible, something you really feel when you're out there?
Absolutely. We have made some incredible friends along the way. And as Joe said, our community has grown. We have friends everywhere, and sometimes we might not see them for a few years, but when our paths do cross eventually, it's like we just met yesterday, and we can pick up where we left off. And everyone we've encountered, we could be boondocking somewhere in the desert and meet a few people, half a mile down and just grab a drink and hang out and really be able to connect on this level of we're all out there traveling, but then finding other interests that we have in common. And that's how a lot of our great friendships have built since we've hit the road. And we've got friends scattered all over North America that we look forward to meeting when our paths cross or we end up in the same area.
Yeah, I got a real sort of layperson's question for you. How do you get your mail?
That is the most popular question we get, I think. I'll let Joe take that one.
So we signed up as escapees. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, it is a kind of membership program that's based out of Texas.
Yeah.
And they offer a mail service program, mail forwarding service. So what happens is we use that as our permanent residence domicile address. and all of our mail gets sent there. They hold it for us, and then when we're ready for it, we will have that mail forwarded to us wherever we are in the country or even the world. And there's some cool benefits with it. Like if you want, they'll scan your mail and email it to you. If you're looking for something specific, you can call and ask for it. But on the other side with packages and things, we actually just try to plan our route so that we can send a package ahead of us and pick it up on our way.
Oh, wow, that's smart. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Out on the road now, you're in Southern California right now, but what's on the radar? What do you got planned the next couple of weeks?
Next couple of weeks. We will probably be in and out of the Southern California area for a little while. Joe's mom is still out here, and given we're going into the holiday season, we want to spend some time with our family. But Joe and I tend not to schedule too far in advance. A lot of times we wake up the next morning and kind of look at each other and say, where do you feel like going today? And sometimes it's, let's stay here because we really love this area we're in. Or if the weather's not cooperating, we might go somewhere else.
Yeah, we've literally woken up in the morning, packed up, and left for a destination we had no idea we would be headed to the night before.
Yeah. That I like that because I do like the element of surprise from time to time and just not having any rules. And that's kind of got to be a lot of fun. It's just sort of like, close your eyes and point to a spot on the map kind of approach, right?
Pretty much. But I will say in the beginning, it was actually very stressful. So
Was it?
I felt like I needed more, I won't say ground rules, but more structure.
Yeah.
And going someplace, not knowing where we were going to be camping or sleeping for the night was a big stressor for me and something I've really overcome over the last couple of years.
Did you grow up in Southern California, Joe?
Yes, I did.
So you were in, I'm taking, when you say Southern California, I'm assuming Los Angeles metro. Big city, obviously, huge city, sprawling metropolis. And then you have to kind of make the transition into living in some cases, I would imagine, some fairly desolate, wide open areas. There's got to be a bit of a learning curve there.
Not for me or either of us, I think. I really embrace the outdoors. I love being in those, just in the middle of a forest away from everything. And, I've traveled quite a bit before even leaving Los Angeles on this grand adventure. And I just think it's one of those things that, innately in me, it's always been something I loved. And one of the reasons I wanted to get out of Los Angeles was because of how dense and crowded and noisy and all of that stuff that, any big city has to offer. I was looking to get away from that.
Yeah. And Kait, similar? I mean, where was your growing up done?
I grew up in Beijing, China, and Joe and I met in Los Angeles. And the transition to a full-time RV life was a lot easier for me. I think having moved from another country to the United States, I really had to adapt to the big change. And so I've always been very good at sort of adapting my life to different situations and circumstances.
Yeah.
Going from a traditional home to a 250 square foot home on wheels, constantly moving, was a much easier transition. I really embraced it and loved it.
How old were you when you came to the United States?
I was 9.5.
Yeah. At that age, you're certainly very aware, and it's you're going to remember everything. It's not like you were 2 or 3 or something, where maybe the memories might be a little spotty. You're going to remember pretty much everything at that age.
Yeah. And I didn't speak a word of English when I came here, so that was also another big challenge and hurdle I had to get over.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's really been fascinating. The guts, the guts it takes to just say, you know what? We're done with this. Let's do this now. It just seems like a major thing. But, at the same time, it's pretty obvious that you've adjusted and honestly really love it, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's what we try to portray through our videos and our website is just all the things that we've gone through. And at first, they seemed to be big stressors for us. But once we got into it and we adapted to the lifestyle, we found that, it wasn't as big of a deal as we thought. Yeah. And our whole mission is to really help people live the life they want, whether it be on the road or just whatever it is. and, some things to think about and help educate them through those processes.
Well, if folks want to check out the Russos, it's we'retherussos.com. That's WERE, the Russos, and it's spelled RUSSOS.com. And you can follow, you can join the 124,000 subscribers already and growing. And, of course, all the great videos online and information and all kinds of cool stuff there with Joe and Kait. And, hey, Joe and Kait, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We really enjoyed being on the show. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, that was great.
This is the RV Advisor Podcast. I'm Tom Alexander. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to the RV Advisor Podcast with Tom Alexander. This podcast is produced in association with Studio Alpha and Alexander Productions in Miami. Visit thervadvisor.com for more.